You are listening to the global network of podcasters dedicated to the pharmacy profession. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Network. YARAL Pharma, an innovative player in the U.S. generics marketplace, has partnered with the Pharmacy Podcast Network to educate and build a network of pharmacists. Learn more at yaralpharma.com.
Hey, welcome back to the Pharmacy Podcast Network. This is sponsored by YARAL Pharma. We are in the studio again with my friend Steve Beckman.
I love the studio. It's very cozy.
It's a vibe. I always try to get the light to the vibe, and this light right here that's on me is broke, and the light on you is the correct one, but I have to get a new bulb.
That's more like I have a halo.
Yeah, look at that. It's like,
yeah. We'll get you there.
That's hilarious.
There you go.
Hey, we're doing things differently. We had a great episode last time. We kind of dug into the philosophy of YARAL Pharma, kind of the mapping out of where the organization's going, as well as collaboration. Shout out. Thank you, by the way, several listeners reaching out to us and being interested in certain things that are happening in your lives as pharmacists and treating people in the treatment programs. But today we're going to do things a little differently, and we're going to shift some gears. Stephen, what are we going to go over today? What does this mean when we see reliable supply and real impact?
Well, look at, at the end of the day, if the drugs aren't on the shelf when the patient needs it, it's kind of a bad thing, right?
Moot point.
It's a moot point, yeah. So I think, one of the things that I think is important for pharmacists and anybody to know is that, what does that supply chain look like, and kind of what how it works and how we look at it from a manufacturing standpoint, because ultimately there's a lot of facets to it, right? When you think of supply chain, it's not only acquiring the API and componentry, then manufacturing, then quality assurance and quality control releases, and then product being shipped, product being received, then product being distributed through our direct customers like wholesalers and distributors, and then ultimately it gets down to the pharmacy to patients, et cetera. So I think one of the things we thought would be interesting is that the people understand kind of what we're getting held accountable for, what are the challenges and the opportunities that are critical. And one of the great things I learned through my due diligence, and one of the reasons I joined the company, was the company has just a tremendous history in that they make the commitment. The ownership of the business of the company has, throughout their entire period of owning the business, has made that a priority. And I think that is important because partly we get penalized if we're not superstars in supply chain, but also it could be the difference between somebody getting a product and not getting a product. And one of our products that we currently manufacture and sell, there's a kind of a supply-demand challenge where there's more demand than there is supply based on some changes in the market as a whole, other manufacturers that have left the business and things like that. So now all of a sudden, we're trying to figure out a way to do things as efficiently and effectively, or doing things better, to minimize that impact, for example. So if you got an acute product, which this particular product is, and patients can't get it, then that product can't help it. And if that's the right product, we'd love to make sure they have it available for them. So, it's really important that we understand that there's multi-layers to the delivery of drugs to a patient. And we thought maybe this would be a good topic to kind of share a light on.
You just kind of spawned an idea in my brain. You were talking about access, and there's a whole approach of what YARAL is doing and doing things differently. And you've exceeded the performance target of 95% on time in full delivery, which is notable in the whole ecosystem of drug access. That's pretty big. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, that's a good number, but it's also a required number. Many people might know that. So when we think about there's really a triangle of criteria that ultimately companies, especially on the generic side, get judged in as we put product into the system. So that's really starting, into our direct relationship to selling into our distributors and wholesalers. And there's three things that we get judged on: price, which wouldn't surprise anybody. That's probably the biggest one. Everybody's looking at how we are supplying the product at the best price that it can be out there in the marketplace, and that's influenced by number of competitors and how many people are supplying, or number of manufacturers. All have different things that influence that price side. But the second two, and the next one, is what we call continuity of supply. A lot of our agreements are set up that we have to be held accountable to a certain performance level, and those performance levels are above 95%, or there actually could be penalties to us as a manufacturer. So the system forces us to a certain extent to be at that kind of performance level. We would want to anyways inherently, but that do it. And then the third one is service levels, and that means all different aspects of delivery of product on time, because ultimately it kind of rolls downhill, right? If we don't deliver to our wholesalers or distributors on time, and their patients or their customers, let's say a pharmacy is calling in to order product and they don't have it, they're going to go somewhere else.
Yes.
So when you think about from a pure business standpoint, that ability for those wholesalers, distributors to be able to deliver product to their customers on demand is essential to their business. So you have to kind of look at the different components and pieces as you go down the supply chain and understand how they work together. And then it kind of resonates why we set these very aggressive and high level performance metrics or targets. It's not easy, because think about our supply chain. In the case of YARAL or IPSA USA, or our branded company, sister company in the U.S., our company manufactures all our products, and we manufacture them in Europe. So some of the products are shipped by air, some are shipped by sea, or they're shipped by sea. You have to anticipate longer lead times to get products over. You've got weather. You have
pirates.
Yes, pirates is a true thing. So we actually even after we had one instance, I think it was last year, no, the year before maybe, where our product had been received into the U.S. and was being transported from port to our 3PL. And that truck that our product was on was sitting outside the facility, which is all obviously locked and gated, waiting for their turn to come in. And somebody tried to break in the back of the truck and steal product off the back. So when you think about it, there is a lot of effort and people to ensure that product can get from A to Z, or from manufacturer to patient. And there's a lot of challenges, both internally as well as externally, that impact that. So we're very proud of that, and I'm very proud to be part of a company that has made that a priority in terms of the quality of their manufacturing and the quality of their supply chain. And we have a great colleague in our U.S. business, Bill Pugna. He's the VP of our supply chain. And
I gotta get Bill on the show. Bill, shout out to you, bud.
Yeah,
let's get him on the show.
Bill's an amazing guy. He's really helped lead the organization both locally and globally to improve on top of the high quality performance we were already delivering. So it's essential. So, if we're in a situation where there's a need for product and there's not enough product, we're doing our best to make sure we can get as much of that product to the people and to our customers and ultimately patient when they need it.
Yeah. All right. So Scott Beatty is the CEO of Framework LTC, right out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's their headquarters downtown. They're the manufacturers of long-term care pharmacy software. That's all they focus on. And he and I were talking. We actually went down and did a recording in his headquarters, which was freaking cool. And one of the things that he was talking about is we cannot scale as an organization. We cannot be successful as an organization if we aren't handpicking and fortifying and strengthening our partnerships. And you guys have a special partnership that I wanted you to kind of describe to our listeners why it's important, and that's with Eversana.
Yeah, Eversana is a company, we call them either a 3PL or 4PL. They are a partner that basically warehouses and helps us distribute our product. That's the 3PL side. The 3PL, third-party logistics, is what it refers to. The 4PLs, where many of those type of organizations are adding other services around that. It could be financial management, receiving payments, doing accounts receivable, accounts payable, pharmacovigilance, different resources that a company might need. And, not all companies are the same. Not all companies are large enough to have all that resource internally, and we outsource a lot of that. And they've been our partner since day one. And it's not that we haven't had our ups and downs a little bit, because we always do, like any relationship, but they have continued to provide the effort and the service and the focus to allow us to make sure that we perform at those levels that we've been talking about, when we have to have service levels. So on-time shipping, some customers need their scheduling to receive a truck. Some shipments are partial trucks, some are whole trucks. I'm not going to go into all the language of shipping and logistics, but at the end of the day, they become probably essentially as important as anything that we do, because at the end of the day, we can do all the marketing, we can do all the regulatory, we can do all the legal, we could do all the manufacturing, but if the product can't get to where it needs to get to, then it breaks down the value proposition. So, having something like a partner in Eversana, which we are again grateful for, and there's 4 or 5 large 3PLs out there, and there's some smaller ones. Many of the companies in our industry do not manage that anymore. So when, one of the things that might surprise a lot of people, whether it's a company, probably the big companies like Merck or other, we don't warehouse all our product. We don't manage all our shipping. Most of that is an outsourced resource. I would think primarily for most companies in the industry, brand or generic. And so they become a very important part of that value chain.
So reliability kind of plays in this, obviously, and you always have to go back to metrics, go back to reports, go back to studies, that you are understanding how you're being perceived as an organization, what you can be doing better based on the data or based on the collection. There was a survey, 2024 survey in the American Journal of Managed Care that showed the average time pharmacy staff spent managing drug shortages more than doubled from 10.5 hours a week in 2019 to 24.2 hours per week in 2024. That is crazy. Those are crazy numbers.
Like anything, when you look at the entire ecosystem of an industry, we have ebbs and flows, good and bad. And one of the challenges that we do have now is, a significant amount, over 90% of all drugs that are consumed by patients in the U.S. are generic. So we've seen, a very unique dynamic that's grown over the last 3 decades. And as a result of that, and as a result of the system that we operate in, again, good and bad, we've seen that a lot of companies are struggling to make enough profit to justify the manufacturing of drugs. We have over 300 generic companies servicing the industry. So one could argue is that we've kind of overshot our skis a little bit. We don't need there's products out there that might have 15 or 16 suppliers of the same drug. Well, maybe 5 would be good. So I think there's a lot of things that are going to evolve over time. I think we're going to see certain thresholds increase in terms of quality and manufacturing that will, I think, smooth out the number of manufacturers. But, the premise is the more suppliers, the lower the price. And, if it forces us into a position where then drugs or critical drugs aren't being made anymore, then that creates a problem. So that's something that is not any one company can solve, but I think it's something that over time, as we continue to challenge the way we deliver healthcare, we'll make some improvements in that area, and then hopefully we'll see that come down. But it's definitely something that in the last 5 to 6 years has become a major problem. And probably one of the reasons why we see some of the things that are happening in the government. We want to make sure that we do have stockpile of certain products and things like that. Another thing that people probably don't fully appreciate and understand is that, when you get your prescription, there's always a date in which you're supposed to dispose of that product, right?
Yeah.
Because when we develop drugs, we do stability testing and other things like that so that we ensure that the quality of the product stays intact over a period of time. And we refer to it as shelf life. So when we have a product approved, we'll get a assigned shelf life. Most products will be 18 to 24 months. Sometimes they can go up to 36 months. But that's based on companies continue to provide data that supportive of getting an adjustment of that shelf life. But if you think about it, let's take a drug that has 24 months. That shelf life starts with manufacturing, and then you have distribution, wholesale. You might lose 4 or 5 months just getting the product from A to be on the pharmacy shelf. And then on the back end, in our industry, the product becomes short dated traditionally at 12 months. That means that the system can reject those drugs and bring it back. So if you have a product that you as a manufacturer can only sell for 6 months before technically it could become short dated. Now, a lot of our wholesalers, distributors, depending on the product, will take product that's shorter than that based on if it's a quick turnaround product. So there's variability in there. I don't want to say it's all or nothing, but there is business guidelines that kind of control the drug. So when we think about supply, our job is to make sure that we get product that is got good shelf life, that we know is getting to the pharmacy at the right time that they can do it. Because the more that we can stay within these windows, it creates more efficiency in the system, right? Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you got product returns and different things like that. So, and that's costly to not only manufacturer, it's costly to the partners in the system.
So most definitely, there's a member of the IBSA team with 18 different entities, all kind of rolling data up into the mothership, where they start thinking, how can we become more resilient to drug supply chain issues? And then what can we do about it to control our own destiny? There's aspects of drug supply that you're never going to be able to control because it's outside of your control. But IBSA and you and YARAL Pharma, now you have elements of this system and this machine where you do have an opportunity to make adjustments in order to become more resilient.
We have a full supply chain team in corporate, mm-hmm. and we have a supply chain team, as we said, led by Bill Punia. And they all they do every day is to ensure the integrity of that supply chain. And think about it. So, let's say you have a product that has a drug device, and I'm not speaking to any of our products per se, but has a component that you have to purchase, and all of a sudden that supplier says, "Well, it takes me six months now to give it to you, not 3." Mm. Well, now you're factoring that into all the math and timing to make sure that you have that inventory. So when you do schedule manufacturing, you have it, and that manufacturing could be supplying against the sales forecast or demand forecast that we provide. So there's a tremendous amount of complexity, and I really have a high degree of respect for all our individuals that really work in the level of technical knowledge and expertise you have to manufacture and then deliver within the supply chain.
So when I look ahead, I know things are in. The pharmacy industry is like plate tectonics right now. Things are really changing. Our way that the prescriptions are being paid for, the way pharmacists are going to get paid, the way that the rebate system is going to change, even the governing laws at the federal level with PBM reform. So everything this is an environment. It's almost like we have a microeconomic system within pharma as a beast of itself within the markets, because it just ebb and flows and everything that happens.
Absolutely.
So talk to about expansion in the future of what you're planning to do. And I'm really excited about the portfolio expansion too, but talk to our listeners about that.
Yeah, supply chain is critical to what we would call as portfolio development. So, any good pharmaceutical organization, brand or generic, the center pillar of our success of the business to deliver drug to patients is how we build our portfolio. And so our portfolio, it can be developed internally or externally, but the supply chain is critical to making all that happen. And when you have a product launch, especially on generics. You could be competing with other generics at the same time. You might have a certain lead time. So if you get a product approved, but the supply chain is not ready to deliver as soon as it can, then there's value lost, not only from a pure business perspective, but ultimately to the patient. So supply chain really is not just about putting a product in a box and getting it from A to B. They're actually highly critical to the overall commercial strategy of any organization, to ensure that we maximize the opportunity. And at the end of the day, let's be real. I mean, we are for-profit businesses, because if we don't have profit, we can't reinvest. If we don't have profit, there's not new drugs being developed or allocations being made to improve manufacturing facilities, whatever it might be. So, we have to find that way. And supply chain is just so much bigger. I think that at the end of the day, most people can appreciate this and realize that in our industry, there is just a huge amount of interdependencies. Mm-hmm. And everything, and what I always talk to my team about in our organization is that everyone in the organization is commercial. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, our job is to make our products commercially available. So whether you're regulatory or finance or legal or supply chain or in commercial roles like sales and marketing or other, we're all there to try to identify and work together in a way like a supply chain channel, mm-hmm. work in an efficient supply process that will allow us to do it in a way that we can be profitable, that we can deliver product on time, that it's of the highest quality. So if we don't do those, there's so many parts to this mm-hmm. that if one or two break down, it might not seem important, but they add up quickly. So, the most important thing that people should understand is that there is a tremendous amount of people that work in the pharmaceutical industry. And one of the key functional areas is supply chain. And these people are dedicated every day to find ways to be business efficient, because that's what good businesses do. But they find a way to make sure that patients are served effectively, just as the person that might be in the forefront in a marketing role or something like that. So every one of these individuals are dedicated to do that.
Hey, if you want to link up with Stephen, go out to LinkedIn, request a connection with him, start up a conversation with him. If you have ideas for future podcasts, before we wrap up, Stephen, I would like to present you with a gift.
Oh, really? Thank you.
Healing the Sick Care System by my friend, Gil Bash, who I worked under Gil's team for Fin Partners as their podcast conduit. It was an amazing experience with Fin Partners, which is one of the largest public relation firms that really focus on health. They have 17 offices throughout the world. And he reminds me of the Yoda of public relations and of communications. And he comes at it from such a heart. He's driving everything. He's using all of his experiences and all of his knowledge about communication. But he always wants to empower other people. And he wrote this book. It's called Healing. I have to get a close up of this. But it's healing the sick care system, and this has been a amazing book to see kind of start getting a lot of press, and it's a philosophy of what our healthcare system could be. But I just want to.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Look at
we're going to review that book with him. He's actually going to come on the show, and we're going to.
That's fantastic. Well, maybe I'll be in the audience listening.
No, we're going to get him on with you.
Oh, okay, good. I could be your co-host on that, and we'll do that. All right. Well, listen. It's great to be around people like yourself, and I look forward to reading the book by Gil. We need more people like that. Again, I'm not trying in any way to be negative. I want what we're doing in this process of the podcast is to be actually very positive. And there could be a lot of opportunities for people to point fingers or do different things. But the fact is that if there's any small legacy I could give, is that I want I want to always be known that as a leader of a company, that I will lead the company in a way that it should be led, and do the things that a good company will do in terms of being successful on a business side of things. But equally, I want to be part of the people with big hearts that are continuing to try to figure out how we can do things differently, do things better, and have a real impact on improving the outcome of healthcare. And there's a lot of people out there. We just need to kind of keep assembling them together, and I think we will continue to create a momentum where a pharmacist, a community pharmacist that's struggling to pay operational costs because reimbursements are challenging, to a patient that's struggling to get the medication, we will continue to find the best ways to do it, to everything in the system up to and back through how we deliver healthcare through our providers, our healthcare system networks, all that kind of thing. If we can do that, I think we just keep pecking at it. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be easy, but that's the legacy that we hope that YARAL will be a part of, I will be a part of, that our team will be a part of, and many people. And this platform is something that we will continue to push hard to achieve some of those goals.
Well, I want to thank you, Stephen, for being part of this. I want to thank you for supporting the Pharmacy Podcast Network and bringing so much into our network from the ideas that you've helped to generate, relationships that you've helped me to foster and bring good content to the network. So appreciate you.
It's a pleasure. Partnerships can do really good things. So let's keep partnering.
Hey, subscribe on all of the podcast platforms. Leave us a comment. Let us know what content we're not covering. Let's dig into it together. But thanks for listening to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.